folks, we're going to go right to questions. Front row middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Hi, Ryan. Got a chance to see a lot of true freshman play. A guy like Caden Curry, what do you see his role being going forward?
The more he plays, the more he's going to probably find a role for himself. He's very, very productive. He's been productive since he's got here. You can see that when he's on the field. And so he's helping us on field goal. He's helping us in some special teams areas as a backup. But to see him get in the game was great. And anytime those young guys can play, they learn a lot. So good start for him.
On the offensive line, how are you feeling there? Both starters, depth, just how are you feeling after 2 games with your O-line?
Okay. Yeah, I think that there's some good things going on. We still are nowhere we need to be, but I think you can see there's been growth there, and there's been a lot of good things. And the way that we're running the ball is much better, but we still got a long way to go.
Fourth row right, Tony Gertman, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, your assessment of Tommy Eichenberg so far as a leader of the defense?
Solid. You can tell he's playing fast. He's productive. He and Steele both last week I thought were very productive, and they're running the defense at a pretty high level right now. So that's good. Again, only 2 games in the system, so long way to go again. But I think that they're seeing it through the eyes of Jim, which is important.
How well do you know Jason Campbell?
I know him pretty well, actually. Yeah, very, very good coach. He and I have spent some time together during camps and just, in the coaching circles. And he's a very, very good coach. You can tell his teams are always prepared. He's got a good team again this year. So, all you have to do is look back to last year, the way that they played in South Bend. And with the transfer portal, they've added some nice pieces. So he runs a great program, and he's got some good players, and he's got a really good staff.
Let's go deep left, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated.
Coach, I know everybody kind of saw what happened to Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and Nebraska. I'm curious, as you think about like the level of attention to detail with your guys as they're prepping for games that aren't conference games, how pleased are you with the way that guys are not missing little things as you get ready for non-Power 5 teams here?
I'm very critical. There's some things that I think we need to clean up in those areas. One of the things that we've talked about is it really doesn't have anything to do with the team we're playing. It doesn't. It has everything to do with Ohio State. We're Ohio State. We're Ohio State. Doesn't matter who we're playing. And so it's about the process. It's about the way that we play. I tried to explain them the other day. If you go out and maybe listen to the best, pianist in America, you wouldn't go to a bar and expect them to be terrible, or taking the night off. Or if they're playing at Madison Square Garden, all of a sudden it changes. It's the same way with us. Like, it doesn't matter what the stage is. It doesn't matter what's going on. We only have 12 regular season games. And in football, the rest of the stuff that goes on doesn't mean anything. What matters is when you play in that game. And that's where the competitive stamina focus has been in the offseason, and it continues to be moving forward. So we did some good things last week, but we still got a long way to go.
A couple games in, and I know you've got a couple games to evaluate on tape. You had a chance to play a little bit of depth in the fourth quarter last week. But in terms of developing younger guys, just – in general, how much more prepared do you think your second and third string guys are, even if they haven't gotten playing time? How much more prepared are they now to be able to get in the game where you guys won't miss a beat?
That we're getting there. Last year, we had starters who weren't ready, so forget second and third string. But there are some guys in the program with a lot more experience than we had last year in all phases. The younger players, the freshmen, whether it was COVID or some of the things that have gone on during their high school career, they need to get on the field and play more. But they're learning, and a lot of them are overwhelmed right now with everything that's going on. So many of those guys, for all of us, we're back to normal, quote unquote. What's normal for an 18-year-old who spent a year or so in COVID during high school? And so they're still trying to figure it all out, and they're doing good. But some days are better than others, and the more they get a chance to play, the better we're going to be and the more we can build our depth. But for the older guys, I think they're doing a solid job.
Right in front of him, Jacob Bench, the Lantern.
I just want to ask about Jackson. Do you have any sort of update? How is he progressing through just the rehab?
He's further along than he was at this point last week. And, we're going to expect him to play this weekend. We'll see how this week goes. But like I said, we're going to only put him in the game if we feel 100% sure that he's ready to roll. But we're expecting him to play.
Gotcha. And you were talking a second ago about preparing for non-conference games. When it's an in-state opponent like Toledo or et cetera, just what sort of emphasis do you have on maintaining that success and standard against in-state programs? Because it's been a while since your team's kind of fallen to an in-state opponent.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great football in the state of Ohio, and we all take a lot of great pride in that. So when you play somebody from your own state, it's a strange feeling. But Jason does an unbelievable job. Toledo has a very proud program, and so do so many in the state of Ohio. Luke does such a great job at Cincinnati. So I think we're all proud of being from Ohio, and the high school football in the state of Ohio, all promoting that. So when we get together to play on the field, it should be a great night.
Brian, I know penalties are something you addressed after Notre Dame. It happened again this weekend. What do you do to address specifically the penalties that you've seen? How do you address that so that it doesn't become an ongoing thing?
It's like anything else, either you're accepting it or you're coaching it, and you have to take that to heart when you're a coach. So, they're being addressed. We have our ways of doing that, and that's not going to be accepted moving forward. Now, there are certain things that, in the game that are going to happen. And a lot of that is coaching and technique and execution, and other things aren't. So, once you start getting yourselves back into the game and the emotion of the game, you have to be able to take a step back and play with emotion and not let emotion play with you. So, all learning experiences, but like you said, we got to get better.
Alex Gant's a guy who maybe didn't play as much as he wanted here, but now in Toledo, now playing quite a bit. What did he mean to this program, maybe behind the scenes, that people didn't see?
Throughout the whole recruiting process, Dallas and his family were excellent. And while he was here, same thing. And, it's great to see him playing. Certainly wish he was playing for us, but it's not great when you have to go play somebody that was in your program already, but he comes from a great family, a great program. And, I guess we're all kind of getting used to a little bit of this transfer portal and how it works. And, I guess this is the real positive side of the transfer portal, an opportunity for someone to go play. And so I'm glad he's doing well.
Deep into the back, Jeremy Birmingham.
Right. I'm glad back here. So obviously, he's talking about transfer portal and how that's changed things a lot in college football. In the last year, we've had 12 months, 13 months of NIL stuff. So just generally speaking, how has that changed relationships in recruiting and conversations in recruiting?
It's changed a lot. I would say for our players who are doing great in NIL, for them, it's almost like a bonus because that wasn't talked about in recruiting. They weren't, part of that. Now this next crew coming in, this is part of the conversation that the guys are talking about is the NIL situation. So I think that will affect things moving forward, just the way things are. But I also think, like you're saying, when you mix in the transfer portal, when you mix in all these types of things, I think, again, transparency is critically important because at any point they can decide not to go to your school and go somewhere else. So what you say in recruiting, you have to follow through with. And if you don't, then there's going to be problems. So I guess that part is a positive, it's just the transparency in recruiting.
And again, in just a general sense, are you hearing more of that conversation from recruits or from parents and what Urban would call third uncles and that kind of stuff? I mean, how do you balance that out?
Oh yeah, I would say all of the above. There's, recruits who kind of handle their own recruiting. There's families that the parents kind of handle the recruiting, and then there's other situations where there are mentors or uncles, and they have a big part in it. Every situation is very different, but now that NIL has become part of the conversation, there seems to be, a lot more people, involved.
Fifth row right. Spencer Holbrook, Letterman row.
Right, you've already touched on Jackson's with the Jigbo possibly coming back, but not that him getting hurt was any sort of blessing, but to see Emeka step up now, it seems like you've got to get him the ball even when Jackson gets back. Is it kind of a blessing in disguise now?
Yeah, I mean, we're a different team when Jackson's in there. There's no question. But to your point, I think that we had to have some other guys step up and figure a few things out. And I think that's that has been good for the longevity of the offense and the depth of the offense. So, we can't wait to get Jackson back, but it has allowed an opportunity to get some guys out there and kind of build some packages.
Thinking about when we asked about throwing the ball to the tight end, but Kate Stover's already caught 5 passes and 6 this season. Is there a more concerted effort by CJ, by you guys, by Kevin to get him the ball, add that another dynamic to your offense?
You can see the play he made. I mean, he looked great on that route, and he's been strong, and that's what we're seeing in practice. And Cade's a weapon for us, and we know with the strength of our receivers that we're going to get him in a lot of one-on-one situations, and so he is another weapon for us. And yes, it's good to see him get some catches, and hopefully we can keep building on that for him.
Third row left, Dan Hope, 11 words.
Ryan, number tight end, G. Scott got in there for some more plays this past week. Do you kind of view him as a guy who can supplement both your tight end and your receiver depth with his skill set?
Well, he came over from receiver, but he works with the tight ends full time, and you can see his ability to block as a tight end, and that's great. So it gives us a lot of versatility there. And each of those guys give us a different skill set, which allows us to adapt in game, which is what happened last week. And I thought what G brought to the table really helped us in that game as they were going from 3 down to 4 down. I don't know how they viewed G, but it looks like they viewed him as a receiver, and then we lined him up as a tight end, and we didn't really see any more 3 down, drop 8 for the rest of the game, which is great for G. And so now we can build on those types of things. Yeah.
And with Denzel Burke, he had a couple penalties, gave up a big play, came out of the game for a while. So how do you kind of feel about how his season has started and how he can bounce back from those things?
I mean, Denzel is very, very talented, and you guys see what he's capable of. And, I think that, he's going to keep working to get better. And, he certainly has some plays he wants back, but, we're all confident that he will, and he's ready to make those plays. But at the same time, he's got to identify what those things are that, got him jammed up on those plays and make the adjustments from there.
Cleveland.com.
Ryan, it's kind of a weird way to ask this question, but the touchdown pass to Mecca, the route he ran, was that kind of similar to what you guys did with Chris against Wisconsin in 2019 at all?
Yeah, similar. Yeah. I would say so. A little bit different. That was in a 3-by-1 set. This was a 2-by-2, but yes.
Whether it's Justin or CJ, where do you want him to put that ball exactly on that type of route?
Right on the money. Yeah. That one was well done because Emeka kind of worked his way through a lot of traffic there, and it didn't quite drop the way that we expected it to. But what it did allow to have happen was because he kind of got caught up in the trees in there, the rest of the coverage kind of got depth, and so it opened up the middle of the field, which is what we were trying to get done there. But Emeka was strong, and I'll give Emeka a lot of credit. He plays physical, he plays strong, where, in that situation, a lot of receivers may have kind of got bumped off the route, and the route would have been dead. I mean, he just kept pushing through it. And the protection was excellent. Mayan Williams picked up a nickel blitz there who kind of added on, and that was really well done. It allowed CJ just enough time to slide in the pocket. I think that's another thing that CJ is doing a good job of, is his pocket presence. He's had to escape a couple times. He slid there to buy himself a little bit of time. The protection was good, and it allowed us to play for, an opportunity for a big play. And I think that's something we talk about with our O-line is that, when plays like that, when you can give the quarterback and the receivers time, boy, the rewards are huge. If you don't have good protection there, that play doesn't develop because it took a long time.
Just update on Julian Fleming and see kind of on the same development with Jackson.
Same thing. Yeah. We're expecting Julian to play this week, and same thing. I think he's very similar to the Jackson situation. Yes.
Front row right, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ron, you mentioned Jackson was further along than last week. Was he doing anything better? What can you guys just share on his progress?
Yeah, it's just in the rehab and just in the strength and the flexibility and all that stuff.
And as far as the cornerback rotation, J.K. Johnson came in for Denzel Burke in that second quarter and got quite a bit of snaps. What did you see for him? It's probably the longest look you really had with him. Yeah, no, J.K.'s done a really good job. J.K. has a lot of skill. He can really run. It means a lot to him. He's practiced well. He's done a good job. And I think that's one of the things that, whether it's preseason or during the season, the only way you get better is to practice. And that sounds like, a cliche from a coach, but it's true. And JK has practiced.
And because of that, he's allowed himself, the opportunity to get out there and earn some snaps. Now, what he does with those snaps, that's going to be between he and Coach Walton, but I think you see his capability.
Over to the right, Clay Hall from the SYX.
Because of the depth on the D line, what's the fight for playing time like, or is first, second, and third team kind of defined?
Well, I think it's week to week, but I think you can start to see, a bunch of guys kind of fill into their roles a little bit. But there's good players in there, and it's a long season, so we're going to need them all. And it's great to have fresh bodies coming in and out of there.
I think at one point in the preseason, Jim Knowles said there are things about the defense only he knows, and he keeps those to himself. Does that add to the mad scientist persona, or?
Yeah, I
do you
guess.
think he's got a bunch of secrets up there?
Yeah, I guess we'll play like charades and see what he's got in his mind. No, I just think, you have a vision. Anytime you're a coordinator of what you want it to look like and where you see it going. And then there's certain things that, need to be said and certain things that need not to be said. And I think that's, again, the art of motivation and the art of coaching. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that, he's looking forward towards because it's a long season. And like we talked about last week, you got to upgrade every week and you have to stay a step ahead of the opponent. And that's what he's talking about.
Ryan, how much do you pay attention? I know each week you're focused on the opponent, but how much do you pay attention to what happens in college football, the upsets and whatever? And as you hammer your guys on the competitive stamina, do you use those things as examples?
Well, when you have a noon game, there's nothing better than being home at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then just sitting there and watching the games and watching some of the other coaches and teams have to go through what we go through. But it was great to sit back and watch some of those games. There's some great games, and tribute to all those teams who played really well and did a great job in the off season, and I thought it was wonderful. But it does go to the point that whether it's this year or any year, anybody can beat anybody, and you have to have that approach when you come into the games. And there's some really good teams out there. We're going to play one this week, so. Do I look at the rankings and all that? No, because that doesn't matter. We have to keep winning. But at the same time, we do watch to see what's going out there, trends, what's going on along the college landscape, how teams are and what are the strengths and what's going on offense, defense, special teams. So, yeah, we're always looking at those types of things.
If you look at Toledo, what jumps out?
Well coached, first off, good players, good skill, a couple really good guys defensively up front. They've upgraded in a couple areas with the transfer portal, and a team that will come in here and play really hard. They're not going to come into Ohio Stadium and be intimidated at all. So I think you combine all those things, you got a really good opponent.
Right, Austin Ward, Rivals, 97.1, The Fan.
Ryan, you didn't seem all that concerned after the game about Mike Hall. Did the evaluations Sunday and Monday bear that out with him?
It did.
Kevin Wilson kind of joked midway through camp that he thought Mike Hall was the best third-string defensive tackle he had ever seen. When did you start noticing that he was going to be a key part of this for you?
Yeah, I mean, in the preseason, you could see what he was doing. He's very disruptive, and you really have to earn your way here. You don't just get thrown into it when you have some guys who, have been here for a little bit longer, and so you have to earn your time. But at the end of the day, the best players play, and he's been very productive. I think he's got 5 TFLs maybe in the first 2 games, and so if he can keep building on that, a lot of good things are going to happen. But I think across the board, there's a lot of good guys, guys who played well up front, and we got to keep building on that, keep growing on that. I think Ty Hamilton, I think Larry said had his best games to date, so that was good, and you're seeing a bunch of guys get in the backfield and make plays.
What did you think about the way Perry and Josh Proctor managed that situation in week 1 and the way they got through to week 2 and the bounce back?
It's similar to what we were talking about, where when you're on the field, you gotta play well, and it's very competitive here. And unlike last year, we have some more experience to go back on, and Josh is gonna play, but just like any position, you got to produce, you got to play well, and certainly I know he wish he had that first play back and maybe a couple other ones. But, he and Perry are working hard to make sure that he's playing his best football right now because that's the goal. And but we have some good guys back there, so it's very competitive.
Ryan, Trevion and mine are pretty much split in carries right now. Kind of just your evaluation of their game through the first games, and how much does that open up what you guys can do offensively when, if you need to lean on them late games, I mean, they can wear down a defense.
That's very important. It's the balance that we're talking about, and I think it's gone about the way that we expected. If you're starting to lean on one guy too much, then that can hurt you late in the season. So, we want to kind of split those carries the best we can and keep them fresh week in and week out. But they're running hard. They're running violent, and we need to continue that. We have to continue to take care of the football, number one, and protection's been solid for the most part.
On my end, his development from last year to now, has it been about on par what you expected from him or not?
He's ahead of where I thought he would be. If you said, where do you think mine will be 6 months ago? I thought he had a really good spring. I thought he had a really good preseason. And because of that, he's playing well.
Second row right, Bill Landis. Right.
Ryan, when you get young guys in at the end of the game like you were able to this week, is that more about just, you just want to get them on the field so they can get used to what it's like? Or as a coaching staff, how much stock do you put into like a guy like Caden playing the way he did when the game's, it's out of hand? I'm sure the other team is tired of getting, run over for 4 quarters. Like, is that still meaningful for you guys? Do you try to assess whether or not a player can help you moving forward?
1,000%. Yeah. I think that's everything. It's like when you step on the field, what do you do? Are you doing your job? Are you producing? Are you doing the things that we've done in practice? And it doesn't matter what the score is. It shouldn't matter. And especially for a young player with an opportunity to get out there and show what he can do. And, if they go out there and they do it, then usually pretty early if they can handle just everything that's going on. Because in a game, there's a lot to process. Sometimes in practice, it's very segmented. And you get, 3-4 plays in a row, and then you kind of catch your breath. And, it's, team run or inside drill or 7-on-7. But when you're in the game, there's a lot going on. And we kind of call it the fog of war. Things can get foggy real fast. But some guys, they thrive in that environment. And so we look at all those types of things.
And as you assess the run game through 2 games, you look at the final stats, they look pretty good, right? But has it been as clean as you want it to be? I know I think that needs to continue building throughout the season, but just where you are through these first 2 in terms of how it's looked. Does it look the way you want it to look?
Yeah, I mean, we got a long way to go. We're nowhere we need to be, but it's cleaner than I expected. I just think we look like we know where we're going. The running backs are running hard. I mean, we're on the same page. It's well put together. And so that part's been solid. We're nowhere we need to be. I mean, we got a ways to go, but I have been, pleased with where that has been. So a lot of things to get better at across the board, but that has been positive.
Second row middle, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
Jordan Hancock had dressed for both of these games, but hasn't been on the field, obviously. Just where do you assess where he is right now and how much he can help whenever he is active again?
Well, he's talented enough to help, and we counted him to be in the 2 deep and be a contributor right off the bat. So I think we'll finally get him back this week. We're hoping for this weekend. It was a significant injury that took a long time to get back from. So he's been working hard. It's not like he hasn't been working at it. He and Stu are out there every day working and grinding at it, but it was a pretty significant one. So we think that this week he can do start getting into some of the scout work. He actually got a little bit of scout work in last week, and we're hoping to see him on the field this weekend.
And with Emeka, obviously, it seemed like Julian was probably pegged still to be the starter there before he had whatever setback he has. Do you have to reevaluate that now and just how big of a role Emeka is going to have in this offense going forward based on what he's proven?
What we thought going in was that we were going to roll these guys at different positions. So all those guys really learned all of the positions. And when Jackson and Julian were unavailable for that first, I think we were good going into Wednesday. And then by the time we were in the second quarter of Saturday, we were down 2 of those guys. So it was a little bit of a panic there. And so because of that, Emeka and Marvin and X have really got stretched pretty thin here early on, taking a lot of reps. And so to get those guys back is going to be critical. And then from there, we're going to just parse out the reps the best we can, which means, who's taking the first snap, I'm not sure, but those guys are all going to play because they all need to.
Got time for just a couple more. Front row middle, Dispatch.
You kind of addressed this a little bit, but we're 2 games in. It's obviously still early. You talked about some of the deficiencies. I mean, are you in general pleased with where you guys are and what needs to improve?
I wouldn't say I'm pleased because I just we have to continue to have that edge and make sure that we know that we're nowhere we need to be. I mean, it's good that we're 2-0, but we got to keep growing and keep have that edge to us that we got to improve ourselves every week. So areas of improvement, certainly the penalties is one thing that's ridiculous. So we got to get that fixed. But across the board, I think it's just everybody and everything. I don't think it's one thing that's glaring. I'm certainly we could sit down and probably identify 3 or 4 things, but without getting into that, I just think everyone has got to improve. The coaching's got to get better, the execution's got to get better, the pad level's got to get better. And the only way to do that is to practice, and then your test is on Saturday every weekend. And again, it's regardless of the opponent.
And your defense has obviously played well, allowed only 1 touchdown. Surprisingly, no turnovers. Is that something that's a concern, or is it kind of like those things kind of happen in waves?
I thought that was unique too. I was thinking about it the other day, but if you start saying something like, hey, we need to start creating turnovers, then all of a sudden you start going away from your fundamentals and you start to try to force things. And I got a feeling those things are going to happen for us because we are very disruptive now. Haven't created any turnovers, but have created a lot of TFLs and a lot of sacks. And so I think that's been good. And, the turnovers are going to come.
And final questions, front row right, Tim May, Letterman row.
Ryan, if I was going to put together a clinic film on 4 different touchdown passes a guy could throw and show patience and or accuracy, et cetera, it would have been the 3 to Marvin and the 1 to Egbuka. Where do you come down on that and standpoint? What is that just showing you about the versatility, not only of your quarterback, but like you talked about earlier, his patience?
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that until you just mentioned it, but I think it's a really good point. And really the one that they called an incompletion on Marv was really well done in the red zone. He went to the second part of that read and really put it, we call it down and dirty, right in his belly. And then, we didn't come down with it, but no, I think that's good. Do I think, by any means is CJ where he needs to be? No, he's got to keep growing and keep building, but it was good to see him get into a rhythm and make a lot of those different throws. Like you said, movement's been good down the field. It was really good yesterday or on Saturday. So yeah, it was good to see him play like that. And then also get into the rhythm with some of those younger wide receivers. And I thought the game slowed down for Marvin in the second game. You could just see just the depth of the routes, the timing of the routes. Everything just seemed a little bit more in sync, and we got to keep growing on that. So
I know you watch the whole game film, or you watch the defense the next day, right?
Right.
Give me one defensive play that just stood out to you. I'm not looking on the bad side. I'm looking on, maybe I'm throwing one out there, the Mike Hall sack on 4th and 1, where they're still in the game, whatever, and he beats his guy, beats the guard to the left and uses him like a turnstile. It turns right into the quarterback. I mean, well, that's a game changer, whatever. Just what was your take on that?
Yeah, no, that was great, and he's been like that, and that was good, big time play, and I guess that's a turnover there when you get his turnover on downs, right? But I liked when we came out of the half, we scored, we got a 3 and out, and on the 3rd down play, we executed that 0 blitz, and Steele got home for the sack. We got the thing around midfield. 2 plays later, we scored another touchdown, and then we flipped the score with 14 points. And actually, defense came back and got another 3 and out, and we didn't score on offense the next time. Like we could have flipped it 21 points in probably about 6 or 7 minutes. And so that part was good, but you can see what we're capable of.
Thank you. Great, Coach. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Get a lot of questions in. We're going to open it up far left. Justin Holbrook, WCMH.
Quan Finn, obviously an athletic guy, likes to run the football, pretty good at passing too. What have you seen from him on film? What kind of challenges is he presenting you guys?
Yeah, I think he can run it anytime he wants to, Not as much designed quarterback run. I think we have to be ready for that. Makes a lot of plays with his feet in scrambling situations. I mean, that's when we really need to be aware of what he can do. but he has all the tools, makes all the throws, very, very capable.
We'll go second row right. Bill Landis, Rivals.
Jim, have you always been comfortable zero blitzing, and how important is it to show an offense that you're willing to do that?
I mean, you become, I mean, if that's your philosophy, and it is mine, because I know it just puts a lot of pressure on the offense to execute. And when you have it in your arsenal, they have to plan for it. You know, there's risk reward to it. I've become more comfortable with it throughout my career because, you know, I know it's important to the structure of your defense to have that be something that is always there where you can get after someone. It changes the game. Your players believe in it. You know, you're talking about even if they get the ball off, making a lot of one-on-one tackles. But, you know, there's a lot of timing to it. And it's a practice, you know, where everybody kind of feels in sync. If the ball does get out, it's that quick, make a tackle. So it's definitely part of my philosophy. And I guess you could say I've grown to it over the years.
Front row right. Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, I want to get your reaction, Jim. There were two plays in that game that really stood out, and Bill just touched on one of them. The offensive linemen had set their feet, and then y'all had both linebackers step up into the A gaps. Are you sitting there watching it happen, going, okay, you know, this is what you're looking for? I mean, you know what I mean? Just kind of what's your reaction to a play like that?
Yeah, you know, when it all comes together, it's a beautiful thing to watch. And, you know, I don't really get to enjoy it in that moment as much as maybe the next day because I'm trying to get ahead. You know, I'm already thinking ahead. But, you know, it is a little bit you know, watching a plan come together and all the parts that go with it. And, you know, because you call something, but the offense can really do anything they want. And then, you know, when it works, it's just you know, a lot of hard work, a lot of thinking, planning, you know, 10,000 hours kind of go into that one play. Yeah. And, you know, go into that one play. So when it comes together, it's satisfying, but I don't get that much time to enjoy it, really. Yeah.
No yippee.
No, yeah, right. And there's no yippee.
But
No.
the flip side of that, my call, you know, 4th and 1, they're in midfield, they're going for it. I mean, is there a chance to stay in the game, whatever? He goes across the guard's face and then turns up and gets the, you know what I mean? That's an effort play, right? I mean, describe the two emotions you get from watching those two different plays.
Yeah, that is definitely a well, he's a talented guy, but it's a effort and more of a habit. You know, it's really in those critical situations, unless you know you've dialed up something perfect, you fall back to your training and your habits, and that's like, you know, we've been talking about Mike Hall since I've got here, and he's just been doing that over and over again. So when it happens in a game, you're not surprised because that's just the way he practices and plays.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Another Mike Hall question. His quickness off the ball, how rare is that? And when did you really start to think this guy is something special, or potentially something special?
I thought it the first time I saw him go full speed against talented offensive linemen, because you're right, it is rare. That first step is very rare. There are a lot of talented guys, a lot of strong guys, a lot of athletic guys, but the ability to get off the ball, you know, it's a split second thing, and it's just something that some guys have. He has it.
A couple of Steve Freeman's teammates described him as, or at least compared him to Aaron Donald. I don't know what you think of that. Can you comment on that? And also the fact that as well as you guys have played, there haven't been any turnovers. Is that an issue, concern, not a concern for you?
I think where Mike goes is, he has tremendous potential. He earns everything he gets. I think, the sky's the limit in terms of where he can end up. Turnovers, takeaways, they're one part of the metric to being successful on defense. I think they come as guys get more comfortable in the system. And when you're more comfortable and you can see, the forest through the trees, and you're able to take more chances because you feel comfortable in the system. So I don't like it, but am I concerned? Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned about everything all the time. That's just one thing. I think back to I think it was 2012, first year we made a bowl game at Duke, which is great. We got 6 wins, and then Duke hadn't made a bowl game in a long time, and then we had to face Clemson and Florida State back to back when they were both at the top of their games. I think it's 2012. We had, in those 2 games defensively, we had 10 takeaways. We also gave up 100 points. So, I mean, it was like, it was, we had 10 takeaways and gave up 50 points a game. I mean, how do you do that? So, I mean, takeaways are just, they're one part of the metric, but, we review it with the team. We go over our goals. The thing about defense, it's a right now proposition. Either you stop them or you don't. That's the way I look at it. Taking the ball away is one way to stop them, and getting off the field on 3rd down is another way to stop them. Then sometimes the ball ends up in the red zone. Either we did it to ourselves, or sometimes it just gets there through other ways. It doesn't matter. Then it becomes the field goals. And I think we've been doing, that's one area we've been doing very well. So there are a lot of metrics, takeaways, one of them. We want that to be better.
4th row right, Cameron T, The Athletic.
Jim, one more Michael question. Ryan mentioned last week, and it wasn't just about Mike, but just in general, like when players have a good first game, you have to build on it. You have to come back and have a good week the next week. What about Mike makes it that's not even a concern? That, like you mentioned how he's a habit player, like some plays he makes their habits. What about him makes it think that like this isn't going to be a flash? It's a thing that can consistently go for him.
Yeah, there are some guys that when you watch them in practice, that just go hard every single play. Game, non-game, walk through, it doesn't matter. I think Mike has a lot of that in him, so that's he's always going hard, and that's something that's going to lead his game to higher levels.
Front row middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
You guys are so deep at defensive end, but what are your thoughts about Caden Curry, and do you foresee maybe a bigger role for him going forward this year?
And he's another guy that I noticed from the start when I got here, because he has a tremendous first step, and he's tough, and for his size, he's one of those guys that just can get himself into position to make plays, like just bounces off people, twists, turns, pitches a fit. So, yeah, I think he showed that he can play, and he's, he can definitely be in the mix. He proved himself with step 1, getting in there and making plays, and that'll earn him more opportunities.
Overall, as a defense through 2 games, are you happy with the tackling for your defense overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it can be better. I thought we had some missed tackles last game. Again, it is a habit. It is totally a habit, and like I said from the beginning, practicing it in non-tackling situations is a whole concept that we've been selling since we got here, and the players, have bought into it. But now it becomes a habit of in practice, putting yourself in position. Yeah, we're not tackling. Are you in position? Where's your mindset? It's like an over and over thing, but I think we've made a good start.
3rd row left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Jim, Denzel Burke, he gave up a big play, had a couple penalties. You guys took him out of the game for a while. Just how do you kind of assess the way his season has started, and kind of how do you help him bounce back from that?
Yeah, Denzel's fine. You know, I mean, those guys at corner, they live on an island. It's something that, you know, 99.99% of the population could never do. It's a really tough competitive situation. You know, sometimes you get into a little bit of a slump. You know, you come out, reassess. He went back in and did better. So I think he's on track. You know, corners are going to have because when you're in such a high pressure position, you know, you're going to have some ups and downs, and it's really natural. And he's got a great attitude, and you know, we trust him.
How do you feel about the depth behind Denzel and Cam right now?
Well, you know, we'd love to have Jordan back. You know, I mean, I think he can really add to that. You know, it is what it is. So I try to not have any feelings around it. You know, I mean, that's sometimes okay, this is what it is. So it really doesn't matter how I feel. It is what it is. You know, so we're working with the guys we have, and they're giving us everything that they have, and we're going to keep getting them better.
Front row middle, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, to follow up on Denzel, when you're, I guess, evaluating a rotation and when to take a guy out or whether to keep him in and let him work through stuff, what goes into that, and specifically in Denzel's case, what went into that in the second quarter?
Well, you know, a guy struggles on one play, no big deal. You know, you struggle on two plays, and maybe you can just feel, you know, you get a sense and a feel that he's a little bit behind. You know, that's not a good feeling as a player. Like, I know if I ever get into that situation as a play caller, where you always feel like you're one step behind, you know, sometimes I'd like to say, hey, you know, can we take a break here? Anybody else come in? But I can't, right? So I got to kind of call my way out of it. But when you have a player, you just see, you know, you say, hey, man, you know, he just seems a step behind, a little off, you know. That's kind of a thing as coaches. That's our job, to kind of get him out, reassess, get him back in, you know, so he can do it.
Somebody who's banged up in camp, has that had any carryover effect?
Well, it doesn't help, right? I mean, repetitions stack on top of each other, and repetitions against quality opponents stack on top of each other. And when you miss a lot of time against our offense, those are certainly repetitions that can elevate your playing performance. So yeah, it doesn't help.
Second row left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
I know you said you didn't, you know, big fan of rotating, but you've done it at that role position with Cody and Steele. What have you liked about their two, you know, skill sets, how they maybe complement each other?
Yeah, I think that you know, Steele is athletic. You know, Cody is has a good physical presence and, you know, experience, and a very Cody has a very stable mindset that I think the rest of the team picks up on. You know, he can handle calls, checks, and just he brings that presence to the defense. So I like the fact that he's in that mix, and we got three guys really who can play right there.
Just for the sake of, how do you feel about the depth behind those three guys, especially with a guy like CJ Hicks? How's he kind of coming?
Man, CJ's got great talent, a great attitude. He's young, you know, so it's hard. Like when you get to the season and you get past training camp, and even halfway through training camp, you've made your decisions, and then you got to start getting those guys reps. So young guys, it's hard to get him quality reps in practice. I think he's going to have a bright career, but it's hard to get him in the mix right now.
Got time for just a few more. Where are we going here? Fourth row, middle, Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
Jim, are you surprised at all that you started rotating Cody? Like, did you set out to do that this season?
Yeah, you know, Cody was hurt, right? So didn't get much of a chance to evaluate him, and but you could tell by his presence in the meeting room and the respect the other players had. You know, I had hoped that he would be able to show during fall camp to be a guy who was going to merit a lot of playing time, and he did. You know, he's really stepped up.
Your assessment of Tommy as a leader for the defense.
Yeah, it's great. Tommy is tough, focused, driven. You know, has the respect of the defense and continues to improve.
Second row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
What are your thoughts on that bend but don't break moniker for a defense? And can it be a valuable thing? And is it only relative to, I guess, the quality of the offense you're playing?
I don't like it. I don't like that. I mean, you know, I would never call a defense that I was associated with that. You know, like I said, to me, it's a right now proposition. You know, we go on the field. I go on the field with the mindset every time of getting the ball back to our offense as quickly as possible. So I never think about bending, but not breaking. You know, it's tough to even switch into that mindset when we go up. You know, we have a lead, or you put some guys in the game. You know, I'm still always chirping to go out there and hold the line and stop them right now. It's a habit. It's a way of thinking. So, you know, I don't like that term.
Going kind of building off of what Bill asked you earlier about the blitzing, is there a way, just as a philosophy, that the more you're blitzing and maybe being more creative and aggressive across the field at many positions, does it, you think, change the mindset on those plays where you're not blitzing? Does it bring, you understand what I'm saying? Is there a connectivity between that?
Mm-hmm. I think your defense starts to believe in making plays, and your defense starts to believe in playing offense on defense. And that no matter what the situation is, you can set them back, get the offense behind the chains, create an advantage. So that's when you start doing that, blitzing, creativity, taking some chances, you make some plays, then I think the guys, they don't really think when they're out there, oh, we're blitzing, we're not blitzing. It's just a mindset that you're trying to develop on the defense and that they're confident that they can do that.
Great. Coach, thank you very much. Thanks, Coach. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate you.
All right, folks, we're going to open up the floor for CJ right here, middle. Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
CJ Ryan was saying that he expects Jackson and Julian to be back this week. How excited are you about that?
First and foremost, I want to give all glory and praise to God, but I think that will be exciting for our team, just getting two dynamic playmakers back. I think the guys who've been playing already have been doing a good job too. So even if they don't come back, I know we'll be fine, but hopefully they do.
Over to the left, Steven Means, Cleveland.com.
CJ, that touchdown pass to Emeka, can you just kind of break down what you were seeing on that play and also the type of throw you have to make to be accurate in that situation? Yeah, so it was a forward look. We knew kind of that the Sam was triggering on the run because he had the B gap responsibility. So we're kind of picking on that some part of the game, and Emeka did a good job by selling drag and then piping it up. So I think he ran it off the mic, and then I couldn't find him at first, but then I just kind of just kept looking, knowing that the type of route runner he is, he's not going to just give up after contact. So after he did that, I just kind of just wanted to give him a good ball he can run with, and I think I did that pretty decently. So I think it was a good execution by both of us, just making it work, even when it wasn't the ideal look that we thought we were going to get, but it worked. So.
Right behind him, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
CJ, what does G. Scott bring when he's in there with his, kind of combined ability to play receiver and tight end?
Yeah, I think he's a very dynamic tight end. He has the ability to run block, pass block, and also run really good routes. So, being his background, being an ex-receiver, I definitely think that he has a lot of positives to our offense, and we'll continue to use him more and more. So.
Right behind him, Jacob Bench, the Lantern.
Yeah, hey CJ, I asked Ryan about the emphasis he places on you guys about playing an in-state opponent. If you can recall the Akron game last year, maybe even a little bit this weekend with Toledo. Ohio State has a pretty good history playing in-state opponents. Just what do you notice about what's different preparing to play a team from Ohio going into game week?
I mean, I think every opponent I try to approach the same. But I mean, being in state, I don't know if that really changes anything, to be quite honest. Maybe they have a couple. I know Dallas Gant, their middle linebacker, played here too. That's one of my former teammates, good friends. So I'm not sure if that really plays anything to it. I mean, at the end of the day, we're just gonna go out there, compete, try to have fun, and win the game. So, but I definitely think, I mean, we'll go out there and maybe try to beat them more because they're in state. I'm not sure. I just want to win. I don't really care.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
CJ, is there something that you worked on in the offseason that you've been pleased that you've been able to take to the field this year? Just some area of improvement so far?
I don't know. I probably just a multitude of things. I definitely I think I've been harping on this a lot, just being smarter in the game, taking what the defense gives me, and trying not to turn the ball over as much as I did last season, and just being smarter with the football, spreading it around. So I mean, it's still early in the season. I mean, there's only 2 games in, so still have a lot of more improvements to still do. But I definitely think that we're making strides, just being a smarter offense, being more dynamic in the run game and pass game, kind of letting it work with each other. So I think as a whole, we're getting better and better every other week. So definitely have some more things to fix, but we're getting better. So
Over here, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, setback to the Emeka Egbuka throw, though. Explain to me when you feel like you really started to develop patience as a quarterback to let things sort of develop. You know what I mean? In front of you, and how long have you had that ability from your vantage point?
I don't know. I think I think God blessed me with that kind of like anticipation, kind of skill since a kind of a young age. I've always been kind of gifted in that aspect. I feel just to fill out defenses and know when my guy is going to be open and where, and just throw it to a spot to where only he can get it and where he's going to be, not where he's at the moment. So, I mean, we've been working. I think those type of routes you have to work on in the off season with like any timing route. So I definitely think mine did a good job in that look too, because after we faked off the Sam, he ended up blitzing. And so I had to step up a little bit, but mine kicked him out for me. And it's just everybody kind of just doing their job to make execution work. So I definitely think that that's something we can build on, and hopefully we just keep doing that.
It's obvious you immediately that if Emeka can get through the mess, it's wide open, right? I mean, how do you fight that antsiness? I mean, to make it happen before it happens.
I don't know. I just think if you just like kind of think about like past games or past things that you maybe even when you were playing as a kid, and just I think it's just learning experience, just like knowing that not to rush things. I think anything good happens in life in general take time. So that's even with football, running routes, throwing the ball. So I think time is a virtue. So I definitely think my O-line was definitely, they always start. I always tell them they're the best players on our team. So the game starts and ends with them. So if they can give us time and our receivers can have a little bit of urgency with their routes, then it'll work out. So I think definitely just time off and on the field is what made that play work.
Nick, right next door, Austin Ward, rivals.
CJ, was that play actually designed for Cade?
Cade and him actually coming open. It wasn't designed for him. It was Mecca was the first read, and Cade was the second, and then if it was anything else, then I could check it down or do something else. So Cade did a good thing. Cade ran a good route as well, and he ended up being open. But if one isn't open, then I go to two. So I'm not gonna pass up on one if one is still working on his route. So.
Arkansas State was just more worried about Cade than Emeka, which was an interesting choice.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas State was not a bad team at all. I mean, they have a lot of good transfers. Their offense is pretty dynamic with Champ. He's from where I'm from, so it was good seeing him it wasn't good seeing him have a good game, but it was good for me to see him after the game and say what's up to him. It was number 7 on their team, and they weren't as bad as everybody just thought. So I definitely had some good players, and I think they were well coached. And I think we still end up play good.
Right behind him, Bill Landis, CJ.
When Julian's healthy, what's he bring to this offense? What are you looking forward to seeing him do once he gets back out there?
I definitely think Julian is very versatile. He's very dynamic. Just, of course, everybody knows he can go and get the deep ball and things like that. But he's been working on his game a lot this summer, just snapping his routes down, making them clean, making them crisp, like curls, digs, outs, different things like that. He's definitely stepped his game up with those. And then, of course, he brings that physical element, just him being so big and being able to block people. And so I definitely think we'll use him maybe in all those aspects. And when he comes back, he'll definitely be used a lot. So definitely excited. And I think he's super excited as well to come back and contribute to wins.
Second row middle, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
I wanted to ask about Donovan Jackson and what you see from him so far, but then also just the whole package that he is, size and athleticism and the way he sees a game. Specifically with the run game, how can you guys use him as a weapon in the run game?
He's very smart to be so young. I mean, he knows IDs. He knows what we're trying to get done. He asks a lot of questions. Him and Luke kind of work hand in hand. So just being so young and being able to kind of adapt to college football so quick, I definitely think that just pays to how much he works, not only on the field but in the film room. So I mean, yeah, like you said, he's a really big body. He's really agile as well, but he works really hard in the weight room. So he's able to move people out of his way and do things like that. I think him and Paris, being on the left side, both work together really well. Both have really good feet work. So I definitely think Donovan is going to be a great player, and he has shown that. So, but he has to definitely just keep growing, remain humble in everything that he's doing. And I definitely think that he's just that type of kid. So he's a good guy, and I definitely think that he'll have a bright future.
Over here to the far right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
CJ, when you get through your progressions, is that why you're finding Cade more than you found tight ends last year? You've already got 5. You've already put 5 passes to him. Right? Do you feel like that's part of getting through your progressions? Do you feel like that's just Cade getting open, the offense that you guys are trying to install? What is it that's making you find him a few more times than you found tight ends last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think just being at Ohio State, we have a lot of good tight ends. Ruck was definitely one of the best tight ends I've ever played with in my life. Was probably the first true tight end I've ever played with. So I know that we were trying to get him the ball more and more last year, but just the guys on the outside were so good and we're getting open so quick and things like that they were kind of demanding the ball just because they were winning every time. So I definitely think that had to play a part in it. I'm not saying that my guys this year aren't just winning like they were last year. I mean, as you can tell, Marvin and Emeka are doing a great job on the outside and X on the inside right now. So I mean, and when it's Cade's turn, he does a good job as well. So we just know with Cade, he's such a big body. He's like a little Gronk. So He definitely has that type of game where if we give him the ball, he's going to make something happen. So, I mean, it's just my job. I try to spread the ball around, and but at the same time, I have to be disciplined in my rules and get the ball to where it has to go every time. So, I'm not sure if it's any different, but I know that Kay is doing a good job just getting yards after the catch and things like that. So, I definitely think we'll continue to feed him.
Time for two more questions. Third row, Cameron T, The Athletic.
TJ, and last week I think you mentioned how good of friends you are with Maya. Just one, just kind of your thoughts on just seeing his development and seeing him play so well, and two, his pair with Travion, how important are they and how much pressure they take off you as quarterback?
Right. Yeah. I definitely think they're a dynamic duo. I've been thinking that since last season. Mine has been good since he got here. It's just I think now everybody's kind of welcome to that just because he's getting more touches and but his pass blocking is tremendous. Same with Trey. Trey's taking that really serious, which helps me, like you said, it helps my job so much. And I definitely think that our approach in the offseason of running the ball, making sure we had to run the ball, is paying dividends into our play action pass and some of our RPO games. So I definitely think that we're doing good things with the backs, and they'll continue to do great things. And I feel like when Evan comes back, he'll do the same. And even Dallin showed a little upside this past weekend. So, I mean, that running back room is definitely on the come up, and I'm excited to see what they do the rest of the season.
And final question, far left, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated.
CJ, Coach Day made a comment about having noon games, being able to actually go home and be home by 4:30 to 5 o'clock, and you watch some of the games around the country. Do you do that?
Yes, sir. Of course. Yeah. I go home and watch, and probably I like binge watch. So I go from like game to game to game and just try to see what's going on.
Any thoughts or opinions on what's going on around college football right now as you've seen the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I know some teams took some losses, but I just think that shows everybody every week. I mean, you can lose to anybody. Doesn't matter who you play. Everybody's coming in to take your spot in the rankings and whatever the case may be. So I think that's just something with our team. We don't want to learn the hard way this season. I know we did that last year, so we don't want to learn the hard way again. And we're just real hyping on it's not about anybody else, it's about us. If we come and play Ohio State ball and we play like we know we're supposed to play, then we shouldn't have any issues. So, but at the same time, we respect all of our opponents. We approach each opponent the same and just try to get better and better each and every week in practice, and execute in the game. So I think we'll definitely just keep building on that.
CJ, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.